Your watch out is not competition, your watch out is time. For a startup, your biggest rival, who you have to convert into your ally, is time. This is where the lean startup approach can backfire. Another cause is rush to launch. Entrepreneurs are very action oriented and their mindset is always around how to launch rather than perfecting the solution or how to grow.
Welcome to What Beauty Founders Don't Know, a podcast formerly known as Jumpstart. Here, women led, early stage beauty brands learn counterintuitive insights to accelerate their profitability and revenue to $20 to $50 million and even $100 million without spending a fortune on ads, influencers, and reckless distribution. With your host, Rohit Banota, ex-P&G and founder of Toronto-based Jump Accelerator. Together, let's create a more conscious, humane, and beautiful planet. A woman's world. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell notifications, and leave a review.
Entrepreneurship is a game of probabilities, and it's better to learn from other beauty founders' mistakes and avoid the cost and time of making those mistakes yourself that are likely to lead you to failure. I will dissect the top 8 mistakes that indie beauty brand founders often make. Let's dive in. Mistake number 1: passion for solution versus the problem. The frequency of this mistake is medium to frequent. Understanding the problem in the minutest of details is usually the case with most indie beauty brands. I meant not understanding. Why is this a mistake? Suppose you're really passionate about the problem rather than married to a solution. In that case, you will go the extra length to understand the problem in as much detail as possible to then create and iterate a solution that actually solves the core problem, which is driven by things like lack of engagement, process engagement beyond superficial interactions, which is necessary to comprehend consumers thoroughly. Without proper engagement, brands blindly follow trends rather than get to the core of consumer issues and create substantial value. Absence of genuine desire to improve consumer lives also contributes to this mistake. You only become a brand once you seamlessly integrate into the consumer's life, and that takes effort to understand and then evolve your solution. Another cause is rush to launch. Entrepreneurs are very action oriented, and their mindset is always around how to launch rather than perfecting the solution or how to grow. How you can avoid this mistake? The key is to pick a problem that either has a personal significance and connects with you at a deeper level. It could be something that you have been frustrated with in your own life. It aligns with your values or sense of identity. Beyond motivation to keep going when it's tough, personal experience can help develop an in depth understanding of the problem. The second way is conducting enough consumer research before creating your solution. This can take the form, you can do detailed surveys, but one on one, in depth interviews is what I recommend, and at least 50 interviews, even though ideally the number should be 100. Just remember to understand the problem in as much detail as possible to achieve the desired results and all the challenges that the consumer might have, including both trial and adoption for frequent use. One dire consequence of this mistake is that you might end up starting with an MVP and then frequent do too many frequent pivots, each of which will cost you dearly both in terms of expenses and revenue stall or decline, and you will never be able to build enough momentum to achieve the desired profitable growth. Your watch out is not competition, your watch out is time. For a startup, your biggest rival, who you have to convert into your ally, is time. This is where the lean startup approach can backfire, especially with businesses that aren't tech. I would even go further to say that even for tech or tech based businesses, starting from a minimal viable product without prior research can decrease the probability of success. Example of a beauty brand: most of the underperforming celebrity beauty brands, for example, Pro DNA by Paris Hilton, fall in this category. Celebrity beauty brands that just try to encash fame rather than offering innovation to build the category further usually fail since they lack the drive to innovate rather than maximize their celebrity status. which is what they depend on. Rihanna's Fenty is the best performing celebrity beauty brand ever since she offered inclusive shades to the underserved market aligned with her image and values. She's contributing to a cause for women and for inclusivity around the globe, and also it is aligned with her image and values. That's why she has performed better than some of the other celebrity beauty brands, for example, Pro DNA by Paris Hilton. I don't know if you've heard of it, nobody has heard of it. A notable example again is Bite Beauty, originally renowned for offering edgy and innovative, yet safe beauty products. The brand made a drastic pivot to ride the clean beauty wave. The rebranding came off as trend driven rather than a genuine response to core consumer needs, leaving their loyal consumers alienated. The brand doesn't exist anymore. And I had predicted the demise. Mistake number two, not validating growth engines. You have three growth engines: paid, loyalty, and advocacy. Instead of dividing them into growth and loyalty, I've combined them into three growth engines. And these are your paid, loyalty, and advocacy engines. The frequency of this mistake is very high. And why is this a mistake? I knew a CXO of a big beauty CPG firm, and he only had one question for startup CPG beauty brands: how are you going to market this? It means you need to think through your marketing funnel. Simply put, how you will or how effectively you can acquire new consumers, achieve loyalty, and generate enough word of mouth for your beauty brand. Remember, there is no business without profits. Profits come via revenues, and the consumers are the ones who pay. If you cannot consistently and cost effectively acquire enough new consumers, retain enough of them, and then get decent word of mouth to feed your funnel back organically without paying, you will never have a sustainable venture. Just like the previous mistake, this mistake is tied to your ultimate foe, time, and you have to respect and make it your ally. Many founders underestimate the importance of consumer acquisition, often subscribing to the build it and they will come mentality. The next level of this mistake is acquiring at a significant loss, expecting consumer lifetime value CLV to make it profitable in the long run. With hardly any barriers to entry for new beauty brands and an explosion of the indie beauty space, helped by beauty stakeholders like specialty beauty retailers, Sephora, Ulta, etc., and influencers who thrive on newness. Consumer lifetime value is a very dicey concept and will always be an inflated number, especially during the first 2 to 3 years, as founders tend to be extremely optimistic about their ventures. Most indie beauty brands have a loyalty percentage of around 20%, and what I recommend is greater than 45% if you want to be on the exponential growth curve or for creating a virtuous cycle of profitability to grow on your own terms. Again, advocacy is the ultimate test of your beauty brand's projections, as that's free consumer acquisition. The less word of mouth, the more paid consumer acquisition you need to make. How you can avoid this mistake? Study the effectiveness of all three growth engines. For consumer acquisition paid, find out which media and channels your target consumer frequents the most and are most open to be influenced there. Please find out the cart size of your most loyal consumers and why they are loyal versus the others. Measure the percentage of new consumers who are influenced by word of mouth. Then deliberate and experiment to improve each of the three growth engines till you can achieve a virtuous cycle for growth. Instead of calculating CLV over 3 years, you should focus on making a new consumer acquisition profitable within 3 months. That should be the goal. You need a mix of organic and paid channels which are scale friendly with your resources. For loyalty, validate your loyalty hypothesis and then double down on the same to increase your loyalty percentage. For advocacy, first measure the advocacy, then create a deliberate tribe strategy to up your advocacy. Example of a beauty brand: most indie beauty brands that need help to cross $1 million in annual revenue make this mistake. Not validating and optimizing growth engines is the reason for the glass ceiling at every growth stage of a beauty brand, from seed to early stage to late growth stage, and so on and so forth. Example of beauty brand again: Fluid Beauty founder Laura Kraber stressed, I spoke to her, that the brand could not compensate for the high cost of consumer acquisition with above average loyalty. Every growth engine matters. Mistake number three: lack of focus, whether it's the problem, consumer, products, or channel. Let's start with the first one. Problem lack of clear focus on the exact problem to solve. Frequency is very high. Two reasons. The first is that entrepreneurs have limited resources, whether time, money, or people, and the secret sauce is resourcefulness. So, spreading yourself too thin or being blinded by the next shiny object, you need to focus on one problem. The second reason, which is the real reason for the first reason and ties in with the first mistake and then with the second mistake, is that if you don't understand the problem in absolute detail, and have never validated your growth engines, so you never get enough traction with your brand. While you see few newer players, newbies doing very well, you start thinking that adding features to your solution, launching more products, or getting into newer categories is the solution. But that is not going to help. How to avoid this mistake? If you have to try new things after you have understood the core problem for the consumer, try with the intent of either validating the real problem or validating growth engines, knowing very well that you're experimenting. Before that, deliberate a bit and think how the new initiative will help you solve the core problem better for more of your target consumers. The second place where I see founders lacking focus is when it comes to targeting consumers. Common phrase I hear is, oh, our brand is for everybody. And they spread themselves too thin across a broad target set. Why is this a mistake? Because for everybody is for nobody. A broad focus fails to generate a strong, this brand is for me feeling. This ties into understanding your core consumer's problem in great detail. How you can avoid this mistake? To start, hone in on a specific, tight knit, self identifying niche, but one that leads to other niches or segments. The strategy is similar to the bowling pin strategy. Knock over the lead pin for the domino effect on others. You can target a broad audience if you are a blue ocean brand. However, it still helps to start with a narrow audience to perfect your solution and validate the growth engines and for the purpose of marketing. When it comes to products, again, too many products is a problem I see with indie beauty brands, especially in the early stage. Too many products can thin your resources, leading to logistical and inventory complications and a lack of leverage. Mistake number four, overemphasis on competition and larger players. The frequency is high. Why is this a mistake? It's the equivalent of getting lost in the noise around you and so focused on others that you forget your own strategy. Constant comparison with competition, especially larger players, can lead to distraction, diverting your attention from crucial aspects like core business fundamentals that are necessary for profitable growth. In any analysis and strategy, context matters. Bigger brands are at different stages of growth and have momentum, resources, consumer base, etc. And every brand is different when you look at the entirety of price, place, product, and of course the brand idea. This applies to even to early stage beauty brands. So when it comes to big players, they are on a different growth stage altogether. You start from early stage, then you go to growth stage, then you go to late growth stage, etc., etc. You become a mass brand in the end. So you just cannot compare with mass brands unless and until you're a blue ocean beauty brand. And even in that case, if you're a blue ocean, then obviously where you are playing, nobody else is playing. And when it comes to early stage beauty brands, even they are in the same growth stage as you, still it's the entirety of price, place, product, and of course the idea that creates a brand, right? So you do not think by analogy. You have to think by first principles. Competitive analysis matters, but the objective is not to blatantly copy your competition. When you're an early stage beauty brand, the only thing you need to worry about competitors is not be like them. And how you can avoid this mistake? Differentiation, relevance, and authenticity. These are pretty trite. Like these are very common. This is very common lingo jargon that you must have heard of. Any consultant would speak the same. But the point is, it does apply. It helps you avoid this mistake. So you create a distinctive brand identity and promise that stands apart from your competition. I'm not going to speak about mental availability and physical availability and all that stuff here. It's not about being different for the sake of it, but being different in a way that adds value to your consumers, aligned with your core promise that solves the core problem of your consumers. Relevance means that a promise is relevant to your consumers' needs. You can be different from competition, but if it is not relevant to your consumers' needs, preferences, and aspirations, then you will not get a buy in. Authenticity means you make promises that you can keep. So even though it's very tempting to make a bigger claim, and obviously those consumers will not become loyal. Like I said, these are you will find this relevance, authenticity, and differentiation. These are dime a dozen topics that everybody speaks about. But the point I want to make was it does apply to this specific mistake, especially when it comes to blindly following competitors or getting swayed by the next shiny object. Example of a beauty brand, May Lindstrom is a brand with cult following. I interviewed her on my podcast a few weeks back. She has inspired hundreds of skincare and beauty brands. I have come across dozens of such indie beauty brands who try to copy her without adding their own special secret sauce. And the result? Have you seen those beauty brands? Nobody has. So you keep an eye and get inspired, but you should always do your own thing. Otherwise, you will not be in the business for long. Mistake number five, lack of focus on margins and profits. The frequency is high. Why is this a mistake? Margins act as the financial fuel to drive sustainable growth. In today's times, your best bet to succeed is by creating a virtuous cycle of profitability. Obviously, because only 1% of the brands get funded. If you don't get funded, there's no other option. If you get funded, if you're not profitable, eventually you will fizzle out. And we are seeing the failure of so many beauty brands in 2023, we have seen, and now again in 2024, who had tens of millions of dollars of investment, but still they had to close their doors. Especially when you venture past $10 million, you will likely need channels to scale further. Obviously, it depends on your business model. More often than not, you would need a channel unless and until you're purely DTC. Every channel will take a huge cut from your margins. With high volumes, small changes in margin can derail your entire growth plan. The two biggest cost centers will be people and inventory, which you can pay for after the channel partner takes their cut. Then you need more resources for further investments in marketing, product development, and more. Now, how to avoid this mistake? The ultimate goal should not just be growth, but profitable growth. There are a lot of growth agencies, strategy consultants who always say profit is not the goal, growth is the goal when it comes to scale because it's a growth stage. You have to pump in money. But trust you me, every VC that I've spoken to in current environment had their share of failures. Everybody stresses on profitability because that's the ultimate metric. Otherwise, your venture won't be successful. And in today's times, you can be profitable without partnering with channels or without giving up too much to the channels because of DTC. You can start with DTC and then partner sequentially with retail channels where you can still be profitable. And I do talk about that jumps retail strategy modules, etc. Before embarking on any initiative, consider its potential impact on profitability. So, for example, calculate channel profitability using this formula: volume into gross margin percentage minus channel margin percentage minus sales and marketing expenses is the net contribution of that channel to your profitability. And this is how you compare channels, this is how you compare doors, this is how you compare accounts, this is how you will compare geographies. It's called waterfall analysis. Instead of looking at the entire cluster together, you break it down into its parts. Here's an interesting fact to note: a 1% increase in price can increase profitability by 11.1%, while a 1% increase in volume only increases profitability by 3.3%. Additionally, a 1% reduction in variable costs can increase profitability by 7.8%. So, this should be the order of priority. First is price, second is reducing variable cost, and then volume. And every entrepreneur, usually most of the entrepreneurs in CPG and beauty space, they do it in reverse. Therefore, focusing on this order can significantly improve your profitability. Example of a beauty brand: a Toronto based beauty brand called Farsali Beauty withdrew from all beauty retailers, including giants like Sephora, as it wasn't profitable enough. They observed that a staggering 80% of brands in such retail outlets were also struggling with profitability. Another example is the Purely Byron beauty brand co-founded by Elsa Pataki. The brand incurred a loss of $3.6 million in 2020 and was reportedly never profitable. This was largely attributed to the brand's inability to strike a balance between growth and profitability. Mistake number six: frequent promotions and discounts. Frequency is very high. Why is this a mistake? It's like being the party host who always lures guests in with a free bar, only to realize that all of them have disappeared when it comes time to pay. Frequent discounts and promotions can initiate a vicious cycle that is difficult to escape. Consumers start expecting continuous sales, which can lead to forward buying, meaning your loyal consumers, even if they are loyal consumers, they will do is they will accumulate products in advance because they know they're getting a much better deal. Although this is debatable whether forward buying actually happens, how much of it happens is debatable. Some may argue it's beneficial or doesn't occur at all. And people can talk about stock pressure, etc. But especially with consumers, it's not a win win game. And it leads to erosion of brand differentiation. As simple as that. If you are always 40%, 50% off, or giving 1 plus 1 or 2 plus 1, after a while the consumer will forget why she buys you in the first place. She'll only remember that she buys you because you're on sale. So, furthermore, regular margin loss can harm your business's financial health. Well, that is pretty obvious. How to avoid this mistake? Instead of constant price cuts, focus on creating and communicating value. Differentiate your brand and demonstrate a deep consumer understanding for the feeling that this brand gets me. That's how people choose between brands. There are other factors, but that is how they decide between brands. If a brand can generate a feeling that, hey, this is the brand that gets me, and I thought I'm the only one who felt this way, it'll help you strike intimacy with the consumer, resulting in sales. Also, keep promotions strategic and around conceptual initiatives with higher perceived value without heavy discounting. This is where I see a big gap with indie beauty brands. They don't know how to do conceptual promotions that are aligned with your strategy, your consumer promise you're making, the target consumer's life, etc. And like I said before, if you do 30% to 50% off too frequently, the consumer will eventually forget why else she should buy your brand. Promotions and discounts should have an objective that aligns with your marketing strategy. You should be clear, is it for loyal consumers, it is for new consumer acquisition, or is it targeting advocacy? Don't do for all. For everybody is for nobody. Example of a beauty brand, a notable example is JC Penney. I know it's a beauty retailer, uh, but its journey offers an important lesson. They attempted to transition from frequent sales to everyday low pricing. However, due to its previous high frequency promotions, customers were conditioned to shop only during sales, leading to a severe decline in sales during the transition. Without naming any indie beauty brand names, it is not hard to think of beauty brands that are always on sales. Just check the last 10 newsletter emails that you've received and see how many of those offer umbrella discount on all products. Just pay attention. That's what I meant. Is your promotion targeting loyal consumers? Is it for getting new consumers, or is it for advocacy? So if you give an umbrella discount on all products, it tells me you're not clear what is the objective of this promotion and discount. You don't have any strategic objective. It's a race to the bottom. There's you will very difficult to come out of that vortex and then climb and ascend on the revenue and profitability curve to eventually achieve exponential growth. Even if not exponential, sustainable, profitable growth is very hard to come by if you're always on frequent promotions and discounts. Mistake number 7, poor understanding of the importance of cash flow. The frequency of this mistake is very, very high. Why is this a mistake? Cash is the ultimate fuel, while profitability is the ultimate goal. You can be profitable without sufficient cash to pay recurring expenses, which can stop your business's motor. You need cash to pay the recurring expenses, daily expenses, weekly, monthly. Plus, you also need cash to invest back into the business. And if you do not have enough cash, even though you might be profitable, your overall income statement shows profits. But if you're not generating enough cash to meet these expenses, you won't be able to sustain. And how to avoid this mistake? Look at all your cash flow conversion cycles from sourcing, manufacturing to final billing cycles and see how you can improve them and make them more efficient to have the cash needed for planned or anticipated growth. Example of a beauty brand during the pandemic and immediately after, numerous beauty brands, especially with huge assortment and who were present in retail channels, which contribute to the majority of the sales, closed down, suffered a big cash jolt because of the manufacturing and sourcing delays, causing the cash to convert slower and leading to an inability to meet expenses, leave alone investment for growth. Recently, Beauty Bakery has closed down, citing a declining trend around glam looks. The brand had a $14.7 million investment, multiple VCs, more than one round, multiple rounds. Even though I don't have all the facts, it is evident that investors might have yet to be willing to support the brand any further because it is already an 8-figure brand. So it is likely driven by the fact that the brand is losing, likely to lose cash with every sales, the ultimate metric that makes investors and banks cringe and back down. Mistake number 8, going to retail too early and ill equipped with no strategy. Frequency is medium to high. Why is this a mistake? Entering the retail sector too early and without a solid proof of concept for two things, for velocity from the shelf, and the second is category development. Retail is a capital intensive arena where 95% of the game is sell out and merely 5% is selling in. The sequence in which you approach this also matters significantly. How to avoid this mistake? Develop a go to retail strategy. This involves being financially prepared and having a proof of concept, like I said, for velocity and category, using tried and tested shopper marketing. And you can use pretty scrappy shopper marketing. It doesn't have to be with a big fat agency. A few other checks before entering brick and mortar stores is building a solid online presence and following, achieving high DTC conversion rates and loyalty. So, like I said, create a sequential go to retail plan starting from a beachhead and channel partners that are a fit with your target consumer base and the support you need to succeed, and also where you can influence your most motivated super fans the most. Example of a beauty brand, a case in context would be Ether Beauty. Tila Abbott launched this groundbreaking beauty brand which championed sustainability. They brought in over 20 brands with a good vibes beauty box, pursued fair trade sourcing, and adopted green packaging initiatives. Despite their strong value prop and sustainability credentials, they faced significant setbacks. The brand decided to pull out of 1,200 stores at Sephora due to a lack of funds to support the brand. For beauty brands that are prestige and need to educate the consumer to sell, starting from a high involvement and influence channel like a pro channel is a great start. For example, spa salons, clinics, and Jump has a ready made module where you can outreach, pitch, succeed, and develop business of these pro accounts. For example, one of Jump's clients identified spas that offer holistic treatments with fast results as a great fit and successfully kickstarted its go to retail with influential spas in leading cities in USA, New York, Los Angeles, and Dallas. Summary. Here's a quick recap of the 8 mistakes I just discussed and a little bit on how to avoid them. A lack of genuine passion for the problem versus solution can become a never ending route to product market fit. This is where the MVP, minimum viable product, that the lean startup guy speaks about, which spread like wildfire, especially in the tech world, doesn't work in CPG, because in tech you can make changes fast, everything is digital. It's not quite the same in CPG, and also making frequent pivots. So your race is not against competitors, your race is against time, your runway, the cash that you have. So if you have to make too many pivots, you will eventually run out of steam, you'll run out of time, and obviously money. So that's why you have to be prepared before you venture forth. And how well do you understand the problem that you're out to solve is the key. And that's the biggest core reason why startups fail. Because eventually you will learn from your mistakes, you can iterate. Entrepreneurship is not an intellectual exercise. You don't have to solve Einstein's equation, understand some deep code and stuff. It's all about how fast can you learn and adapt, how open you are to listening, how much you can focus, for example. So that's where the frequent pivots, they're not that good. And it obviously tells that you haven't thought through the problem. Not validating all three growth engines, paid loyalty. Entrepreneurs have this mentality of build and they will come. Very rarely they come. And this is going to impact the profitability and sustainability of your venture. A lack of focus, again, whether on the problem, consumer products, or channel, will dilute your brand's impact. Brands need to comprehend the problem thoroughly, so they need to focus on the problem. They need to cater to a specific niche, focus on high profit, high volume products initially rather than having an umbrella assortment of every product that they can manufacture. And then implement a sequential, well thought out go to market strategy. Another mistake, overemphasis on competition and larger players rather than playing to your strength and not focusing on your core consumer. You need to take decisions factoring your beauty brand's growth and stage into account rather than just, live by analogy. Make decisions on a daily basis just because somebody else is doing it. A lack of focus on margin and profits prevents you from growing sustainability. If you cannot pump money back in, there's no money that is going to come from somewhere else. So If you can make your consumers pay for your growth, nothing like it. And in today's times, with the fragmentation that we are living in, that is the ultimate way to grow your business. Frequent promotions and discounts, they create a vicious cycle of diminishing profits. Like I said, it's a race to the bottom. Going to retail without a proper proof of concept around velocity and category development inhibits profitable scalability, and not prioritizing cash flow results in an inability to invest in resources and meet expenses needed for growth. The above list might not be comprehensive, but these are core reasons, responsible core mistakes that the early stage beauty founders make, which inhibit their eventual success. Do check out my article on why beauty startups fail. And if you want to find out if you are making one of these mistakes or where do you track, feel free to message me. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to this What Beauty Founders Don't Know podcast for amazing guests and insights on growing your beauty brand. Visit jumpaccelerator.com and take the quiz to find out how ready you are to make the jump to 20 to 50 million plus dollars. And above all, don't miss out on your free online course taken by hundreds of successful beauty founders. Sign up for your free online course now. Till the next episode.